do. Ba-da, do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling, magical Monday. I totally blanked out on what day we were on. So, like, I got this. No, I don't. So, how has your Magic Monday been? What magical experience did you manage to create today? What magic did you manage to put into your workplace? Get on the calendar for this week. Just basically, what magic are you creating? What spark did you get lit today? I had a very creative day, a very productive day. I got stuff on my calendar for this week, which is exciting. And I finally came to a decision as well with how gas prices are. I am staying put this summer. I am not traveling. When you've got a 75-gallon vehicle and you're looking at paying over $4 a gallon, yeah, not going to happen. So I'm actually going to stay put this summer and suffer through another Arizona summer. I was even thinking maybe I could go somewhere a little cooler for 4 months and then come back again. So like, you know, I'm already paying for the site for a year, so I might as well tough it out here, which means I won't get to go up to the northern states like I was planning to this year. I was planning to go up around Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, maybe make it over to Michigan. Wasn't sure. Michigan was sort of like way over there. Maybe. That was my plan anyway. And then gas prices started going, and I'm sort of like, yeah, no, not going to happen. In fact, it turned out well because we actually met up with Zephy got reunited with her friend Chloe. We haven't seen Chloe for a while. And so her owner and I were talking for a while, and he was planning to leave at the end of the month, I think it was, beginning of April. And then he wasn't going to come back, but he took one look at gas prices and made the same decision I did. I ain't going. So it'll be interesting to see how many people who are currently here in the park just for the 6 months for the season, the snowbird season, decide to stay on. So it'll be interesting, and who will head away and that sort of thing too. So, but you know, we'll still keep options open. Things may change. Gas prices may take a drastic dive. You're right. And maybe I'll travel again. But for this year, we're going to stay. For the summer, we're going to stay put here in Arizona. I really got to get the roof resealed before then too, so that it's got the UV protection on it. It's got get the fiberglass layer on there, so it gives us another layer of insulation against the heat. If we put rubber on there, it'll just basically slide off. So I got to specify the fiberglass coating up on top of the roof and get that done. There's so much I got to get done to this vehicle right now. I'm actually thinking of, you know, I've got another 2 years because April is when it turns 16. I got another 2 years of extended warranty on it before it gets taken out of extended warranty. So my next decision is when I replace Sparkles, I want to need to replace before she turns 18. You know, am I going to stay more permanently in one area? Or am I going to get back on the road again? And so I'm kind of in two minds. Do I want another Class A, or do I want to switch it to like a fifth wheel where I can use the fifth wheel as a permanent base? And I don't know, maybe go tripping around in like a little converted van, or like one of those Class C's, or maybe a Class C or a Class B. I don't know. There's lots of options out there. And yeah, we'll see. We're keeping options open. I got at least I want to switch her out next year if I can. So there's options. So we'll see. Depends how things go this year as to what happens. So, but yeah. So for now, we are definitely staying put for the summer here in Arizona, which is cool because I really like this site. It's nice. It's semi-private. It's a great little site. I like it. I like having the fence across the back because I feel like people aren't spying on me. Although there is another site that I like that's the next street over that my friend stayed on when she was here. It's got a complete concrete patio, concrete driveway area. There were people that were long-term that stayed in that one. It's got a shed on it as well. but it has no back fence. And I was like, yeah, that one wasn't available last year when I was looking. Otherwise, I might have taken that one. But I like where I am. I like my neighbors. He actually came over today because my water softener I put on last week, and it's been doing great. And he comes over and he says, he said, did you put that blue thing, that big blue thing on the back there? And I says, yeah. I said, that's the new water softener. And he goes, he says, I don't know if you know this, but it's leaking. And I'm like, oh, yes, I totally forgot to get the plumber's tape. So plumber's tape will be here tomorrow. And we'll go out there. And I'm wondering if it's because I've got it turned up too high for the pressure. But it doesn't leak as much when I've got the water flowing. It's just when I'm not using any water that it starts to drip. I could go turn it down a little bit, but then I'll get a dribble out of even less of a dribble out of the tap than I get now. It's a balancing act. But the one thing they did recommend with the water softener was to use the plumber's tape. And I thought I had some, and I went digging around and found it was electrical tape, not plumber's tape. I was like, okay. So yes, I'll get that fixed tomorrow. So that's tomorrow's task. When the shipment arrives, will be to go and fix that. But yeah, it's been a very productive day today. I got a lot of work done, which I was glad about. I started working some more on my creative idea that I came up with, that I showed you on the piece of paper this morning. Yeah, it's got a lot more stuff on there now. So it's been a pretty good afternoon. It was a little weird on some of the calls that came through chat today, and I'm sort of like, I kind of felt like times like I was on the Twilight Zone because I had no clue what was going on some of them. Usually I'm pretty good at grasping what people are talking about, but it was like today, it was like, even though they had written in English, to me, I was reading it like gibberish, and I was sort of like, yeah, get out of this. We've got to get out of this zone. So I went and filled up my water bottle and had a big drink of water, and that kind of cleared things up a little bit. So stay hydrated, stay away from the carbs and stay hydrated and have some more protein. That's what I've been learning the last 29 days is that when I have a carb heavy day, I get a very foggy brain, very sleepy, need to take lots of naps throughout the day. But if I have a protein rich diet with vegetables, like all my greens and my broccoli sauce and spinach and tomatoes aren't green, but tomatoes. I like the little ones because then I can go grab handfuls of them and snack on them. They're great snacks. If you don't do that, just have a container of the little tomatoes, like the cherry tomatoes or the grape tomatoes and stuff. Just have them laying loose in a container that you can just open the fridge and grab a handful and just walk around snacking on them. They're great snacks. All the little things you learn along the way. But yeah, so I've noticed that's been my big shift over this last 29 days. Is that tomorrow's day 30 of the health challenge, and that's been my big shift. Is that when I have a lot of protein, and less carbs, my brain is a lot clearer. I can think a lot better. I have more energy, and I'm not wanting to take naps. I didn't take naps at all this weekend. So that was kind of cool. I didn't feel like taking a nap. Not till like around 9 o'clock at night, I feel like falling asleep. So, yes, that's kind of an interesting thing. And, oh yes, that's what I watched last night. Oh, I so wanted to watch the third part of that. For those of you, for Pride and Prejudice fans, there is a mini series. It's on a PBS channel. It's done by PBS. It's one of their masterpieces, and it's called Death at Pemberley. And you know Pemberley from Pride and Prejudice as the home of the Darcys, and this is them a few years later after Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy get married. This is a few years later, and I know it's a few years later because they have like about a 5 or 6 year old running around. So, but death comes to Pemberley. There's this murder on there, and Mr. Wickham gets arrested for murder, and it's kind of cool and seeing how it ties into the original story of Pride and Prejudice, completely written by somebody else, but how they've kept the characters, they've kept the character traits. Everything that's done is done within the characters that you've come to know and love in Pride and Prejudice. So it just feels like I found it a natural flow on from Pride and Prejudice, but then I haven't watched Pride and Prejudice for a while, so I need to go dig out my DVDs on that one and watch that again. But it's a really good, and I got to the end of part, because it's three series, 3 hours long, and it's broken up into 1 hour segment, 3 1 hour segments. And I got the end of the second one. I was like, oh no, I got it. Where's my? And then I'm like, no, it's 10 o'clock. You're going to bed. I had to get strict with myself. So I was like, okay, I have to get everything done on my to-do list today so I can watch the third installment tonight. So as soon as we finish here, I'm putting the meat on. I've got the meat sitting out because I suddenly remembered that Brad always said that you should take the meat out from the refrigerator and just let it sit on the counter for about 20 minutes before you cook it. So it's been sitting for 10 minutes now. So because I did it just before I got on here, and so we've got a fillet of some sort. I can't read the label from here. I think it's a top sirloin fillet or something like that. It's a fillet. There's 2 pieces in there. It's yes, looking forward to having that for dinner tonight. And because it's the right thickness, it will cook in about 2 to 4 minutes. So I'm like, yay! Then you got to let it rest for a couple of minutes too to make it juicy. I'm learning all these techniques and stuff. So maybe one day I'll get brave enough to actually try a gas grill outside or a charcoal grill outside. No, charcoal's just like, no cooking on fire. I don't like having fire around, not around an RV park. Yeah, I'll try it on a gas grill one time before I purchase one. I'm going to learn how to use it before I purchase it. So learning on the indoor grill for now. Yes. So get there. But anyway, I was trying to think of a genealogy tip for tonight, and I was sort of like, my brain's a little fried. We've been talking about going and looking through newspapers to see if you can find stories about your family in there. Other things that you can do to find information about family is if you are a member of Ancestry, you get access to looking up wills and deeds and probates and maybe coroner's reports. Coroner's reports can be quite fascinating at times. My second great-grandfather actually drowned in the Clutha River, leaving a wife with 2 young daughters and pregnant with their 3rd child. And this is my second great grandmother. I have a lot of questions for her. She's a very mysterious woman. And he went missing for several months. So he fell off the barge in like May, I think it was, and he wasn't found till August. Now, May through August in New Zealand is winter. So, and we're in the Clutha River, and we've been down south. So it would have been a little cold, a little frozen, some snow, some ice. And yes, we do get snow in New Zealand for those of you that are asking. We actually have some world-class skiing down there, and we have some of the world champions will come down and ski on our slopes during the off season just to keep in shape and things. So when you guys are sweltering in summer here, they're down in the snow in New Zealand, skiing away, having ski holidays in the middle of summer. Middle of summer for here, middle of winter down there. But yeah, so they found his body, and when they found his body in August, of course, in those days, what they did, and this is going to gross some people out. So your local pub, tavern, inn, wherever it was your central hub for everything. You had the court cases were heard in there. You had, of course, all the drinking and the parties and everything else. It was your local community center that did everything. So if you think of a community center, and in there you'll have court cases, you'll have trials, you'll have coroner's inquests, you will have debates, you will have the town meetings, whatever community-based activity there was, it was the pubs, the taverns, the inns that had these things held at it. It was like a one thing for the local towns before they started building like courthouses and jails. Well, actually jails, they still had those separate, but so building other buildings to do things and quite often it was classrooms as well for kids based on the size of the town. It would be the classroom, and that was before they would build separate buildings for a schoolhouse or the courthouse, etc. And so when they found my second great grandfather, of course it was coroner's inquest, and so they took him into the pub, they pushed 2 tables together and laid his body across the tables. And you can imagine the sight. It's been in the river since May. It's now August. So you're talking 3 to 4 months in the water. And they held the inquest there and then. And the coroner was there and asking questions of trying to find out the identity of this person. How did you know that was this person? And things like that. And there was one of his workmates turned around and said he recognized that it was this person because of the boots on his feet were made to fit around the corns on his feet. And my mum and I are sitting in the National Archives there when they were in the older building. You got to imagine it's dark, it's dust, not very good light, it's dusty, it's got that mildew smell. Just think of the old library archives and things like that. Those places where you go and there's stuff seems to be just higgledy-piggledy all over the shelves and just so it looks like people have just like thrown stuff on the shelves and, oh, here's a space, we'll just put that there. Yet it's completely organized. And outside in the hallway, you had this huge card catalog that had the 3x5 catalog cards in it. And that's where we got the information as to what volume and things his coroner's report were in. So we filled out the little form with the little pencil that was there, took it to the window. Then we had to go sit and wait. And it's quiet, so quiet in there. You had to whisper on a whisper. Whispering was too loud. You had to go an octave lower. And they bring this big book out and put it in front of us. And it's already open to the page. There's no need for you to touch the pages. That's where these come in handy, the white cotton gloves. They're helping turn the pages, keeps your oil off the pages and things like that, helps protect them. And we sat there and we started reading. My mum's taking all the notes, and we're trying to decipher this handwriting from the late 1800s, because this was like 1893. It's in the 1890s. And so we're trying to decipher this handwriting at the same time, and got a little magnifying glass out so we can read some of the handwriting, because sometimes you got to blow up the handwriting to actually follow the letters. One of the classes I did in January? No, when did I do that class? February last year. No, sorry, July last year. When I did my classes in July last year, part of my class was a handwriting class of handwriting from the 1800s. And we actually have a manual for it telling you how to identify the letters and everything. It's really cool because it's all this cursive writing. And at times they said, just sit there, look at the word and trace it with your finger, not on the actual piece of paper, but trace it on a piece of paper in front of you. Just trace the letters and see if you can figure it out that way, what it says. So we sat there and reading this thing, and we came across this guy who said he knew him because of the boots. And when we read that, we just started laughing. And we got some strange looks from people because we were above a whisper. But the guy was very good. He came over and we asked for copies to be made of it. They made copies for us. And then I think they rushed it through pretty quickly to get us out of there since we were disturbing the peace of the place. But anyway, so, you never know where things are going to be. And based on where you were born as to where the records are held, are they held at county level? Are they held at state level? Are they held at town level, at city level, at I say county, didn't I? Yeah, county. So you kind of got a parish if you're in parishes and stuff like that. So sometimes records are held in the parish, in the local parishes and the churches. Sometimes they've been taken from there and put into a central place. And so there's a really good, if you go to familysearch.org, that's the one that's attached to the big library that's in Salt Lake City. And they actually have wiki pages there. And the wiki pages are really cool because you can go there and you say, I want to find records for Arizona. And you type in Arizona and you'll get the history of the state. You'll get the history broken down into counties and towns and cities and things like that. And then if you look for, and then it has like a chart on one side where you go and click what it is you're looking for, vital records. I want to find the birth records. And then it goes and gives you the birth records and which ones are currently available, because some states will have a law on there that says that you cannot see a birth certificate if the person was born, 50 years ago. If they're younger than 50 years, then you won't get to see it, or 100 years. I know in New Zealand on their birth, death, and marriage site, where you can actually look up the things, you only see the certificate number and you just see like the names of the people, like the parents. For birth certificates, you see the parents and the child's name and who their mother and father were. And then they may have the date there, or they may just have the year, but then they've got the certificate number, so you can order the certificate. Actually, no, they don't have the actual birth date on there. The birth date's on the death ones. But you can't see the birth certificate if they were born less than 100 years ago. It's 100 years on birth certificates, 80 years on marriage certificates, and I think it's 50 years on death certificates. If the people have been dead for more than 50 years or something like that. Though you can look up, if they've been dead less than 50 years, but if their age is over the 100, then you get to see the certificate, you get to see the reference on the index. So it's kind of interesting about some states have those laws, some countries have those laws. Some of them just really don't care. You want that? Sure, just show up. If this is the ID you're going to need, if it's for somebody who may still be alive, there are certain circumstances in which they will actually give you the information. And a lot of the times, even if you are the child, you are not allowed to see your parents' birth certificates if your parents are still alive. If your parents have passed, then yeah, you can get a copy of the birth certificate. But if you are a child of a parent and you're doing research and your parents are still alive, you cannot, in some states, you cannot request a copy of the birth certificate. That has to come from the actual parent themselves or their guardian if they are incapable of giving permission. So there's all sorts of things based on where it is, and these wiki pages that the Family Search have are really good with that sort of information as well. So like, well, how do I get hold of the birth certificates? You go click that little button there and you go in and you have a look, and they tell you these are the ones that you can see online. This is where you can see them online, and you can't see anything beyond the state because this is the state law or the county law or the parish law or, you know, whatever the law is for that particular area. So it's kind of fun and interesting. You get to see it, get to find out lots of interesting things. So anyway, that's it from me for today. Go have a super fantastic sparkling evening. I gotta go cook my fillets, and we will catch you guys back here bright and early for tomorrow morning for Tune Up Tuesday. Hei konera.